Yeah. And without further ado, please join me to welcome these special guests for this special evening. First, I'd like to call our moderator tonight is the author, educator, and national recognized speaker in work and the workshop facilitator for parents of transgender children, Janna Barkin. Yes, whose books include He's Always Been My Son and A Grand Love, stories for grandparents of transgender grandchildren. Jana, please, you take it. Thank you so much for accepting. And for sure, she, the filmmaker, amazing, award-winning, come to us, please, Luchina. And the dad, the great dad, here with us, Wayne Maines. Thank you. Oh my God. Oh, thank you.
That's
Look
a
at
Wayne
that.
Maines original.
Thank you so much. So, thank you again for being here. And what a great way to end this CA Film Pride with this amazing conversation. Please enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
It's so nice to be here, everyone. Wasn't that incredible? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for creating that incredible film.
Thank you.
And thank you, Wayne,
You're very
for being
welcome.
part of it and for being such an inspiring dad. Wayne and I have kind of interacted, but from afar for a long time. I've been a fan. But our kids came up in the world at around the same time. My son is Amaya. He lets me share his story. And he grew up here in Marin. And our story is long. It's in my book, which was mentioned. But now, in my capacity as support group leader and facilitator and author, I've come across so many, many families that have children that just are not as expected, let's say. And it's been a challenge and a gift and an honor to be the parent of my child, but all of my children, not just my trans kid. And people often say, you're so lucky, or he's so lucky. And I say, I'm the lucky one because being his parent took me on a journey I never expected. And so here I am sitting in front of you all. So that was unexpected as well. And it's really my honor. So I know this audience is going to have a lot of good questions, right, everyone? So when we do get to that audience Q&A, keep your comments brief and also end your comments with a question, right? So that we can hear from the amazing filmmaker and subject of the film and also get to as many questions as we can. And I brought some questions that I'm going to start with, but I'm also going to save a few just in case you're shy, but I don't think they will be. All right. So the first one's kind of open-ended and it's for both of you. All my questions would be appropriate for both of you. So I think for the first one, we'll ask you, Luchina, and it's what surprised you most? Or maybe what did you learn that you didn't expect while making this film?
Well, this film is a continuation of the short that I started in 2022 when we took our first weekend with 5 fathers of trans kids and Dennis Shepard, the father of Matthew Shepard. And I didn't expect to make the second film. That's the surprise. I honestly started with the short and thinking that that was what I needed to say. I needed to say something about these amazing dads who are just regular dudes, who like to go outdoors and hunt and fish, and also are proud to show up for their kids and other people's LGBTQ kids. And by taking that weekend trip with them and just being a fly on the wall, I got to see in real time this community forming, that they found each other, because I didn't realize just how much dads in general go through things in isolation. You know, they carry things so deeply. Women, we do things a lot different. You know, we reach out to each other, but it's harder for men. And right away, these dads connected. They poured their souls out, and for many of them, it was really capturing this internal journey that they had gone on, and to be able to be a witness to that it just filled me with such gratitude. But then to see that they took that weekend, that film, which Netflix picked up, which won the Daytime Emmy Award a year later, it also inspired these dads to continue what they were doing. It started a movement. For a documentary filmmaker, that is the greatest gift, to see that your film actually has a real impact in the world. So to see these dads, you know, form this foundation to go on that second retreat while I'm accepting the Emmy, they're waiting around the fireplace to the fire outside to see what happened, and then they just held their fourth retreat, and they had 32 dads. So this movement is strong, and it was really Stephen Chacumba who said, we need to keep filming, and insisted on having a camera at that second retreat, where my husband also went, and when I saw that footage, I was like, okay, you pulled me back in. And then, of course, the political landscape shifted as we were filming. So as a former journalist, and one of my former J School buddies is here, I understood the importance of capturing what was happening in this moment so that it would always be documented and no one could say this didn't happen.
Cheers. Hear, hear. How about you, Wayne? Was there something that surprised you?
First, I never wanted Luchina to stop with the 11-minute film. I'm just saying.
The truth comes out.
I always wanted, for me, it was, let's just go fishing everywhere. I don't care where we go. I'm going to meet you there. I'll bring some fishing rods. And fishing is just a backdrop to get these people together. Because I was doing what I call trans witnessing one-on-one at sporting events and in my driveway shoveling snow and whatever. But that, I never thought it would come to this. And what we needed so much was to have this big platform to change. We need to change culture. That's not easy. I do that for a living, and it's hard enough to do it at work, to do it for a nation, but we gotta. And the last thing I just want to say is, there's a couple dads were actually afraid of me when we went to that second retreat. I mean, I'm like, I'm kind of outdoorsy, but I didn't think I was that dangerous, So I took them for a walk in the woods and just showed them the other things besides fishing that I like in the forest. And, I go to their house now, and I hang out with their kids, and it's just, that's what it's about, breaking down those sub stereotypes of different people. Even though we were doing all that bonding, they were still afraid of me. I said, I was afraid of you when I didn't know what you were going to be like, so I'm okay,
I think he is
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to go to my third question because it picks up on what we've been talking about. And forgive me I'm going to take a moment to express this question. It took me a while to formulate it. But, I often hear, and this came up in the film too, conversations about gender often focusing on our kids' gender journey, especially in parent and grandparent groups that I lead. we often lead with talking about our kids' gender and how it's changing and what their pronouns are. And as time went on, I started bringing up our own possibility of looking at our own gender journey, what was taught to me or you as children growing up, and how that might, affect how we move in the world now. And there are messages about masculinity and femininity, more Tim, right, having her name. And there, one of the things that really stuck out to me was not only about fathers of transgender children, but the focus on masculinity and all the different aspects, watching these dads come together and crying and hugging and being really playful was quite profound. And I feel like this movie really helps us see that masculinity can be expressed in so many ways, but perhaps we really need the space and place to do so. What do you think about that? It's really open-ended in that way, but I'm really curious if you knew that that was going to show up when you made this film, because it was unexpected to me to see some of the deep hugs and just the freedom of crying that the men expressed in this cisgender for most of the men and hetero for most of the men in the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that was the wonderful surprise. I think that we filmmakers get, when the film angels all come together and you realize you're witnessing something deeper. I mean, I saw it a little bit in the short when Peter talks about going to a therapist and the therapist saying, well, maybe you're, hi, I see Jennifer, my cousin. Hi. um, I Peter is a chef, renowned chef, and yet here's a psychologist saying to him, "Well, maybe your profession's not masculine enough." So that was sort of the beginning of like those little seeds around. Ooh, this is interesting that this is bubbling up, but certainly in the feature, you really see it. And because we had more opportunity to spend time, a longer period of time with these dads interacting and getting them out to play and seeing them play, you really do see that love and affection and saying love to each other. Frank taught you that, Wayne, um, and so I think that's what's been so fascinating about this feature. When we premiered at South by Southwest and we started, getting things on social media, I kept hearing from groups that are working in the man space right now, not the manosphere that we know way too much about, but this alternate space that is really growing around new conversations about men and caring for themselves and boys, and our concerns about is there a mental health crisis going on among our boys and men. And both Stephen and I recently received an award in Washington last week from the Congressional DADS Caucus. Jimmy Gomez, right, a congressman from California, started this caucus, and we received the Dad Ambassador Awards. Never knew that was a thing, right? 4 years it's been going on, and basically Equimundo, this group that is working with the Congressional Dads Caucus, is showing the data on men and what they're actually saying. And men are chattering as much, men, dads, online as moms are. So yes, they are looking, they are craving to see more nuanced portraits of themselves, right? Um, like Chris said, I don't know what we're doing. We're out here emoting. Like, we do that. Men do that. And so I love that this film is actually offering this new conversation because, this is what you hope for, that in a subversive way, you can change culture. That it's going to take, to really get at what's happening, all these attacks, and to fight back against these attacks on the trans folks and the community and the families. It's going to take having that conversation with men. I'm sorry, we can't leave men out of the conversation. And so I really think it's important that in this moment, that is what people are latching onto.
Thank you. Yeah, Wayne, how did it
Yeah,
feel? Yeah.
I just think we broke that barrier pretty quick, and people, because I was probably the first one to start crying, and my job is I'm straight and narrow at work. I mean, I'm telling police officers what to do. You don't cry when you tell them go take care of that, But I want to explain it this way because men communicate so much differently. Years later, we went through hell, my wife and I, and we had StoryCorps come to our house and they interviewed the kids, and the kids interviewed us, and then they said, "You and Kelly want to do an interview?" And I said, "Yes, but you need to lock this up in the Library of Congress for 15 years until our kids are old enough." And I was dead serious because my wife's not. She's a heavy hitter, man. I knew it was coming, and she said, "Wayne, the first question," she goes, "Remember the first time we went to go see Dr. Spack in Boston at the Children's Hospital? He's the godfather of pediatric endocrinology. Nicole was the first patient." She goes, "That's a 6.5 hour ride, and we didn't say a word." And she goes, "Do you know what I was thinking?" I go, "No, what? What if Wayne doesn't sign off on this?" That broke my heart. And then I said, "You know what I was thinking? How the hell am I going to pay for this? Because that's what dads do, right?" And that's what I tell these dads. You got to talk to your partner. You got to really talk. You can't, no bullshit. Just let what you're feeling out, because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. So uh, that's really helped. Like I just, you know, I would always find.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. But he would always sign off.
Yeah.
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 What parent wouldn't when they really know what's at stake? At the same time, I know many parents who struggle with that. So my last question, and I know we have a few audience questions, so let's do a quick answer, if there is such a thing, to this very big question, which is, maybe is there one, like I think Wayne just offered that, that word of wisdom. If you're struggling, if a parent is struggling, how am I going to do this? What are people going to think of me? That I hear that a lot. What are people going to think of me if I allow this? Families do say that to their families. It's your fault. Somehow the parent made their child trans or gay. It's just not the case. And in fact, many people go the other direction, forcing them to be someone who they're not. And that can have dire consequences. So what is there a gem that you could offer to those that are struggling to help them move toward their children, who are most likely, if they survive their childhood with unaccepting family, they will do what they need to do apart, right? And I see we all want that relationship with our family, but yet sometimes the very fear, we want to protect them. And there's a country, a culture that is not safe, right? So how do we protect them? What could be a step that a parent could take?
Well, I think the stat at the end of the film, that card about the importance of at least one accepting, caring parent, or it could be a non-parent. And unfortunately, that is why we are partnered with the Ali Fournet Center in New York, which houses the most unhoused LGBTQ youth or young people in the country. And, you know, they are a global organization now because this is a global problem. When kids aren't accepted, you know, some of them have to leave their homes and they end up homeless. And thankfully there is this organization to take them in. But if you could just understand that it really does have a significant impact on their mental health and their health outcomes overall to have at least one accepting, caring parent. It brings down suicide ideation, so many things. So try to be that for your child. Get over yourself. You know, nobody really cares. They got their own problems.
I would just add it was in the short too for me and a lot of the other dads. You gotta conquer your own fears. You know, I have one left, and that's dancing in public.
Okay, well, let's put on some music and
work
we'll
on
get
that.
over that. All right, so I know we have just a couple more minutes, and I would love to invite anyone from the audience who might have a question for one of these amazing
And raise your
people.
hand, and I will bring you a mic.
Incredible movie, incredible document. Thank you. And you said that there were 32 at the last DADS meeting. So we saw that some of them had left, right? They made that decision. So the ones that are showing up, are they ones that are still considering, or the majority people who feel that they can't leave because they're not, we're using words such as privilege, they don't have the means? And so do you feel that that is drawing more towards your retreats, and because they want to find answers for themselves while staying within this environment?
I think it's such a personal decision. Even since the film premiered, we've had another family leave. And so the family that was in the film. But some of these dads have flew in from other countries to attend the retreat. So it's true that the work continues and that they take it with them because sadly, Canada is starting to, bubble up. Spain, as Lisette mentioned, UK, not great. So the advocacy has to continue, but it really is this dance between, how public can I be and how much do I need to take a step back and make sure my family is safe. Everything that these dads do is out of love, period.
Hi, Luchina. Thank you for this important work, and
you.
congratulations. And thank you, Wayne, and for your story and for your bravery. And I'm just curious if any of the men featured in the film, or even now out of the 32 that attend a retreat, have any of them, or are any of them Trump voters?
Good question.
Tell them where you were.
Don't forget, you're in the Bay Area.
Yeah, well, I was a strong, diehard Republican, nationally known NRA instructor, Air Force veteran who lived in a state that was, accepting, but Maine's not as blue as it used to be. And then I became an independent because then I had to be able to vote. But I couldn't. Then I finally got in line, signed up, because in the independent you can't vote in the primary, and
That's
Hillary was our, and just a quick funny story. I signed up as a Democrat, and 2 weeks later I get a phone call. They wanted me to be a delegate, and I go, "What are you talking about? I've only been a Democrat for 2 weeks, And I did, and it was amazing to stand in line, the longest line I've ever seen, with my 2 children, so they could sign up to vote, and we lost. So But yeah, there were. I do not think so, but I can only tell you there's a police chief in Texas who worked for me that got in a car one day, and he was a Vietnam vet, 10 years older than me, still called me sir. I never got over that. And he said, I just need to tell you, I didn't vote for Trump.
Oh, there it is.
You know,
That's
because
everything.
he met my children, and he knew me. He knew me. So,
That's
and
perfect.
that's what this film's got. They got to get to know us. Yeah, so.
That's really key. That there is many statistics that say that, you know, once we know someone who is whatever marginalized community we're talking about, that really changes things. And it's one of the reasons why we share our story and why we remain public is to share those positive stories.
May I just ask one quick thing real fast? Is I identify as non-binary, and I would send my dad to the retreat, but he's passed. But he was my most significant spiritual teacher and advocate. But what I wanted to ask is, I get calls all the time from parents that have trans or gender variant children, and how could is there a way to refer dads to the organization and the retreat? That would be helpful.
Yes, the dadsfoundation.org. Please do. We also have a film website, thedadsfilm.com.
We've almost doubled every year, so next year is 64, right?
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Question in the back. Yes, thank you so much. Born and raised gay here in the North Bay. Woo woo. We're definitely, here in the Bay Area, super liberal. I also think, in particular, Marin County, there's this, I think, acceptance that we're a little bit don't ask, don't tell, I would say, territory. Where it's like we don't have an issue, but just I think it's the public. And I think as I'm getting a little bit older, I think I'm realizing that like pride was a promise in a lot of ways. And I think now that I'm getting older, realizing that in a lot of ways it was a betrayal, I think. And so I guess what I'm wondering is, and now that I have like younger people in my life, how do we counsel them with that? Where it's like, we were supposed to be about progress and advance and like our rights were gonna get more accepting and more access. And then now it turns out that it's, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's such a big question, and I didn't want to make a film where you don't feel a sense of hope, and we always have to have hope. My first feature was Mama Gloria, about a Black trans elder who went through hell and still kept going. She lost so many friends to AIDS and survived to be an elder and was like, now what do I do? And she sees these young people who are being kicked out of their homes, and she's like, I'm going to start a charm school for homeless trans kids. Okay, Mama Gloria. But Mama Gloria never stopped loving, hoping, and seeing the progress that was made, right? She came up before the word trans existed. She had a mom who loved her, and so she understood what love was. We have to maintain love and hope, because the anger and the despair, as Daniel, 17-year-old, said, ain't gonna get us there. And that's what you have to remember. And even these young kids, they do. He's doing well. He's about to go off to college in Spain. So I think as a Black woman, I've always understood that, things, you take some steps forward and you get pushed back. But we don't stop going, because we know we may not get there, but the next generation could, right? So keep the faith, keep the hope.
So we have time for at least one more audience
One more.
question.
Is there another question in the group?
Could you just speak to, was his name AC?
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 Speak to that story? That was really
Yeah, so AC has left the country, and his family will be joining him soon. He was able to find a job in Australia, and interestingly, I think when we first talked to him, he was like, "I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving." But AC is a named plaintiff on the lawsuit against the government, the ACLU lawsuit on the passport issue. So I think that's part of it. And again, it's like we have to. It's a case by case basis, or it's a day by day basis where you may need to shift. But he's doing work over there already, and working on getting the film over there. We've already done an interview with Australia Television, so I do think, these dads are just going to be all over the country, all over the globe, but doing the work, and that's what's important.
It's really good fishing in Australia.
Oh.
It's just,
So Wayne's on his way there.
we talk. I talk to one of these dads every week about something, and we have a monthly Zoom meeting. And there's still other dads thinking, and not just their dads, their children old enough. My daughter, who lives here in California, and we've explored Ireland and other places, and it's frustrating to try to keep your kids' spirits up, because we know it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. But when you're 28 years old, 16 years old, you don't know that. You can't think that way. It's hard. So I can't wait to see this film with her.
So beautiful.
And the
Thank
last thing I
you.
have is, I have my family scrapbook up here. If anybody, I'll set it out if you want to look at it. It was in the film, but I always bring in, people look at me like I'm nuts, but you might want to see something.
Oh, and
So
his truck
chat
is
time?
his truck also is around the corner, and
So we're all meeting at your truck now.
Yeah, you might have seen it.
and as the truck that you saw in the film, right? So
Yes.
there's some, and he just won a prize at the county fair in San Mateo
Yeah.
for that fishing cart.
So you're a man of many talents.
Yes.
And for me, it's the love and deep dedication to your family, to never give up, to give your children the freedom also to be themselves as adults, right? And what Romario in the back said, it really hit me that, our kids grew up, they were kind of like the pioneers. They weren't the original kids getting gender affirming care before 18, but they were among. And, visibility, someone else said this recently, and I want to carry it in, also means vulnerability. So I thank my child for letting us be really visible. They grew up at a time where they had this promise that like things were going to be cool. And parents that have 10-year-olds that when they were born and showing themselves to be, they were like, oh yeah, and when you're old enough, you'll have whatever you need. But they don't have that now, especially even here in California. It's really stressful. So write your Congress people, write those letters, make those calls, show up at rallies. We are the privileged ones that can do that. And I don't want to assume that some of you are not that, but we got to work together. And I so appreciate your vulnerability and your forthcomingness. And thank you for making this film. And thank you all for being here. And thank you, CalFilm and the Rafael Theater. Woohoo! And Joao and all the people who